Good morning, how are we doing? Hope we're keeping safe, and of course I hope we're keeping sane. Yes, I am back. It's been a couple of days, but I am here. I have a haircut, still manages to be scruffy despite being so short. Unbelievable. There you go. Look, I make these videos all the time, or at least I used to make these videos all the time. So if you've been with the channel for a while, then firstly, thank you. Awesome, thank you. If you're new, then maybe hit the subscription button at the end of this video if you think it was useful, interesting, or otherwise. I don't know, really just wasn't too bad. Payday, for a lot of people, is just around the corner, and for a lot of people it will be a long-awaited payday, because obviously we had the Christmas one, which often comes early. January is a long month. It's a long, dark, miserable month, particularly after we spent far too much in December. And obviously, paydays are never further away for any group of people than for problem gamblers. I myself have been in this cycle, and I'm sure many people watching, or maybe someone you know, has been in the cycle where you get paid after a much awaited payday, and then in a matter of days, sometimes even hours, the money's gone, and there is, as they say, far too much month left at the end of the money, and you sort of struggle through. And yes, I've been there and I've done that. And if there was a t-shirt available, I'd probably have it. Although you wouldn't see it now because it's bloody cold in here today, so I've got to wear some sort of grey-brown cardigan, as is the age I'm getting to now. Anyway, yeah, like I say, I've made these videos quite a lot historically, but if you are getting paid this week, if this payday coming, January payday, is that little flicker, that light at the end of what has been an exceedingly long and dark and, rainy tunnel. I think I got distracted. Then, look, here's some... I'm even going to use the word advice. I try to avoid using the word advice on this channel, but yeah, here's some advice. In the time you've got between now, which is what, Wednesday? Bloody hell, it's only Wednesday. Anyway, in the time you've got now between Wednesday and Friday, I assume it'll be a payday for a lot of people, last Friday of the month, whatever. Or maybe your payday might be next week, last working day of the month, or whatever it is, right? You've got a bit of time. You still have a bit of time. If you are trapped in the cycle, as I would have been, and as lots of people have been, of getting paid and losing your wages as soon as you've been paid, then use this bit of time you've got now to make a plan. Okay. Now, ideally, and feel free to take or leave this advice with as much of a pinch of salt as you so wish, because I appreciate different things work for different people, and I never want to come across as proclaiming that I'm the oracle and that I know everything about everything, because I surely know very little about not a lot. The ideal way to do this is to speak to someone prior to you getting paid, okay, preferably a partner, close family member, very, very close trusted friend, and explain, your issue with gambling, and even explain, look, this is the cycle I'm in, this is where I'm at, this is the problem I'm going to have, and you don't want to blow this. The last thing you want to see is this. This light at the end of the tunnel getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and finally it smacks you in the face and you're there. You actually made it to payday, and then knowing that, like, a day later, 2 days later, 3 hours later, whatever, looking back and going, I waited all that time for that, and now I'm back in the same situation. So anyway, explain to this person, loved one, close friend, whatever, the problem, maybe even the cycle you're in, etc., 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 and get them to look after your money for you. All right? This is one of the hardest blocks, procedures, things I put in place when I was in the early stages of recovery, because whilst I was quite happy to ban myself from casinos or self-exclude or do the other things, this to me felt like relinquishing control, not just control of my wages, but control in a sense of my life, and actually inhibiting my own freedoms and accepting my own weaknesses. If I went to my wife and said, look, can you hold on to my wages for me? Obviously, it's a slightly different dynamic because we have a joint account and all the rest of it. But in the early stages, right, look, I'll give you my wages. When I need them, I'll tell you what I need, how much I need, and, and you give that to me. Kind of like pocket money. And yeah, it felt a little bit demeaning, to be honest. And it felt a little bit like I was saying, look, I can't be trusted. And the reason I had to turn around and say I can't be trusted with money is because I couldn't be trusted with money. It really was as simple as that. So at least by putting this in place, I had protected myself, and whilst it came across to me a little bit kind of demeaning and a little bit childlike, well, here's your pocket money to run off to the pub and go and have your 4 pints of Stella or whatever, right? As much as it came across like that, I then had a clear conscience. She knew I wasn't lying to her. I couldn't do anything to cause myself to have to lie to her. So ultimately it was beneficial for our relationship, as well as being blindly beneficial to my finances. I was actually making it at least most of the way through the month without sort of running out of spending money. And it was quite a corner turned, to be honest. But look, even if you're not going to do this, right, and I appreciate A, it's hard, and B, it's not for everyone, and C, some people may not even have someone that they trust that much with their money, and certainly don't be giving it to somebody you don't trust. Certainly not another gambler, that's for sure. If you haven't got that facility available to you, then look at other things you can do, right? So, obviously, the GamStop, online self-exclusion schemes, all that sort of thing. Go on to any casino, bookies that you're registered with, self-exclude, or if you're not totally set on quitting gambling, but you don't want to mess up this month, then put a timeout on 30 days, whatever. I would always recommend, obviously, self-excluding, but I appreciate, not everyone is me. And maybe not everyone even thinks they've got that much of a problem. Certainly not the problem I had, but they just want to make sure they don't gamble come this payday. Well, go online then, put your timeouts on, put your blocks on. I think you can do GamStop for like short periods of time. I don't know what the minimum is, but you might be able to do that. Cover you for the next month or whatever, so you can get that next light at the end of the tunnel isn't quite so eagerly anticipated, isn't quite so desperately required as we get further and further into February. So do that. Go to the local bookies, self-exclude, do what you have to do there. Do the same with casinos, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff I've talked about many, many times before. One of the more recent things you can do, which again I've spoken about before, but in case this is your first time, get in touch with your current account bank or the provider of your credit and debit cards. Most major banks, most major card companies or card issuers now have a scheme by which you can block yourself from using your card for gambling transactions. Now, in a really boring, geeky way, very, very quickly, in 20 seconds, every person who registers to use card services, every business that registers to use card services has a merchant ID. That merchant ID will be tied to the nature of their business. So bookie, casino, whatever, arcade, blah, blah, blah. Right? They will have a merchant ID associated with that nature, with that sort of industry. So when you go and use that card, if it's tied to that industry, it will simply decline. Okay, maybe slightly embarrassing in the short term if you do forget you've done it, or if you do think, oh, I'll try my luck. But in the longer term, it really is beneficial. And whilst you may walk away from that bookie thinking, oh, I tried to spend 200 quid on my debit card and it's declined and it's a bit embarrassing and all the rest of it, you'll walk out of that bookmaker's or out of that casino or out of wherever, okay, and you'll think, maybe a minute later and maybe an hour later, you'll think, oh, that was lucky, wasn't it? I dodged a potential bullet there, and actually that money is still sat in my bank account. And I've said this 100 times before. I was going to say 1,000,000, but I'm not going to exaggerate that much. So this 100 times before, right? One of the great things about not gambling is not that you suddenly become wealthy and flush with money and, wow, look, there's a new Lamborghini on the drive, right? One of the best things about not gambling is financial stability. Not financial, abundance, not financial abundance, but stability. You wake up in the morning, you get up the next day, and apart from anything you spent on legitimate expenses, the money that you had the day before is still in your account the day after. And there's some real element of stability and peace of mind that comes with that. So, like I say, there's tons and tons of blocks and things you can do to help stop yourself from gambling in the short term, right? And whether you just don't want to gamble in the month of February, you want to take a bit of time out, or, you've accepted that it's something you want to do, you want to quit forever, you want to get into recovery, then use whatever time you've got left between now and payday. And if you don't get paid monthly, you get paid weekly, you can still apply the same. If you don't get a regular wage, if you get universal credit or whatever, you can still use the same philosophy to use the time between now, whenever you watch this video, and the time you get more money coming in, to your bank account, to do something to prevent yourself from, when as soon as that money hits the account, going out and splurging on a gambling binge. Because whilst maybe being January payday, a lot of us don't have a huge amount of money kicking about at the moment, we may think that the urges have died off a little bit because we haven't had the money to gamble. However, as soon as we have that financial ability, we have that those gambling tokens, be them in cash or be them in as a number on a screen in your bank account, as soon as that becomes available, that will awaken, to use rather dubious imagery, the gambling demons in your head. You know, they will suddenly be on it, and they will be begging you to gamble more than ever before. So what I would say is use this time you've got now to be prepared for that and to not allow you to act on those urges as and when they inevitably occur. All right, stay safe, stay sane, subscribe if you're new, like the video, really helps me out, and yeah, take care.